morning, everyone. It's Tracy Prachi with RCAW, and we are so glad to have you here today. We have Heidi and Megan Ellsworth here from Roofers Coffee Shop, and they're going to be talking to us about podcasts. So as we go on, if you've got any questions, just type them in. We'll get to them at the end. And we're just super excited to have you guys, and take it away.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
And we are really, really excited to be here today. Thank you, RCAW, for having us. I also want to just upfront say thank you for the great partnership, Tracy, with being on the board and just us all being involved with your association is just a highlight for us. So thank you. And thank you. Today, we're excited to share about podcasts.
Yes.
So first of all, I'd like to introduce ourselves again. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and I am the owner and president of Roofers Coffee Shop. And
my name is Megan Ellsworth. I am the show and podcast producer at Roofers Coffee Shop.
And we are related, just so you know. Megan is my daughter. So there you go. But we wanted to kind of show you a little bit today about why podcasts. And it's going to be a lot of different directions in that maybe you want to produce your own podcast. Maybe you want to use some of the podcasts that we produce to be able to grow your marketing and to just be able to grow your thought leadership and also brand awareness. So we're going to go through what's out there and then also how possibly you can start using it more in your business. So starting out, who is Roofers Coffee Shop? And I think that is one of the things for anybody out there who doesn't know who Roofers Coffee Shop is. We are a website for the industry, for you, but we're much more. We are a multimedia publishing group. So we not only publish a full website, but we publish podcasts, webinars, e-news, articles, 4 to 5 articles every day. You can find so much fun stuff, and we're going to talk about a lot of that today, but by simply going to RoofersCoffeeShop.com. But we're going to get going because we really want to talk about podcasts and what's happening in that podcast world. So when you look at the podcasts out there, some of you may be closer to my age and think, why should I do a podcast? Why should I even listen? I can read, I can get my information, but I've even come around to listening to podcasts. It's an amazing way to digest information, to get it out there. And in fact, as we're looking at what's happening out there, believe it or not, there are more than 1 million unique individual podcasts out there. 1 million. I mean, you're never going to be able to listen to all of those in your lifetime, nor would you really want to, but there's always something for everybody. 104 million people listen to podcasts in the US monthly. I mean, talk about having the attention, right there, and being able to get in front of that person through their ears, as they're going in a way that we never even thought about before. 66% of consumers today prefer podcasts over TV. That is an amazing stat. 66%. Megan, that's kind of, you find that, don't you? People are doing podcasts instead of watching TV.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially when you're looking at probably 30, 35 or younger. Yeah. It's a huge, that's the big demographic for podcasts. So if you're trying to reach that demographic, podcasts are definitely the way to go.
It is so true. And so you can see the rest of the stats here. I mean, this is all going to be available on RCAW. So you can, if you are looking for some of these stats to show to your boss or to show to your other folks in your company, they're here. They're also like fingertips away with Google. When you're really looking at this, it is amazing to see the popularity. Talk a little bit about this. This is a huge increase.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, this graph starts in 2006 and obviously now it's 2022. I would say this would probably be 10 more percentage points higher now if we're looking at 2022. But in the last 5 years, I would say podcasts have grown like 10, 20 fold in popularity. And that's because of, that celebrities are doing podcasts now. Everybody's doing podcasts and everybody's listening to them. And if you're not listening to them, you should, because they're really great and really fun. And there's lots of I mean, there's podcasts on every subject out there in the world. There's so many different subjects that podcasts can cover and that they are covering right now. So, and like I said before, a lot of young people tend to listen to podcasts. So if you're trying to reach that demographic, if you're trying to reach the people that already listen to podcasts and not create a new group of people, then that's definitely what you're going to want to do, is start, engaging with those people, is go the podcast route.
Yeah, and when you think about, for the contractors out there, homeowners, with the millennials being the number one homeowners now of across the board, millennials are listening to podcasts, and they're also they want to understand home improvement. How can they make their home better? What can they do? So you becoming that expert, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, really makes a difference, or bringing those experts to them, to your future customers. And you may think people don't listen to roofing, but they do. We started our podcast in 2018, and Roofers Coffee Shop has been active now for almost 4 years. We're in our 4th season, right, Megan?
Yeah, 4th season. Mm-hmm.
And we did, you'll see, we did a bunch of different things there. This is not something that happens overnight. Even though there's a lot of people out there watching podcasts, there's also a lot of noise because there's so many podcasts, as you saw in that earlier slide. Mm-hmm. But we have really worked very hard. And when I say we, I really give that credit to Megan. She has been the motivator behind the podcast from the very beginning. Maybe you can share some of these stats, Megan.
Yeah. So when I came on to Roofers Coffee Shop, we had, several different shows, like podcast shows. So we had Stories from the Roof. We had the Heidi and Vicky show. We had roofing road trips. And I thought it would be best to kind of combine them all into one umbrella category. So it's just the Roofers Coffee Shop, podcast umbrella. And so having all of your podcasts under one roof is so great. And since doing that and posting consistently and really engaging our guests to share when they are on our podcast, we have seen our listens and our playbacks go skyrocket. They've skyrocketed. We have around, I think 80 to 100 unique listeners every day. And then we have around, just since switching platforms, we now use a distribution platform called Anchor, which is what you're seeing here on the screen. Since switching to Anchor, we've had around 13,000 plays on our podcast. And it's really cool because you can also, in any platform that you choose to distribute your podcast on, they'll give you analytics. So it's great. You're seeing the demographics that are listening to your podcast and how you can kind of engage with those unique demographics. So age, gender, and how they're listening. How they're listening is really important because I think we see more people listening on Apple Podcasts, which is surprising to me because I'm a Spotify user. So you can use that. I feel like Apple Podcasts might be more of a slightly older demographic rather than Spotify. So that can help you. And then you can see the age right there. It's 28 to 44. So that's very normal for the roofing industry. And also the male to female ratio is also, sadly very normal for the roofing industry as well. So you can kind of see who you're getting in front of and how, and then from there you can ask yourself how to market to those people, especially if you're trying to get in front of home or building owners. So yeah, our podcast listens have just gone through the roof.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to watch. And we're going to kind of show you all the different ways that we're pushing those podcasts out there because you can use that too. And one of the things that I really want to stress is you may be listening to this and thinking, I want to start a podcast. That's great. We're going to give you all kinds of information about that. But you also may be like, how can I utilize the podcasts that are out there? And I think that is the easier route to get started. There are a lot of podcasts that are already active within the roofing community that can help you, one, either to build content for your website and for your platforms, or two, to find out what's going on. and to get more information. Share that with your employees. Encourage them to listen to the podcasts of the industry to really understand all the different opportunities and ways of building your business. You will be amazed at how much of that comes through in these podcasts. So some of the ones I just like to point out is Stories of an Extraordinary Industry is from the Roofing Alliance and NRCA. And actually, it's National Roofing Contractor Association is the sponsor, but they talk about the Roofing Alliance in a number of their podcasts. Great stories, amazingly well produced. Jared Ribble just does an amazing job with this. Something I would highly recommend to listen to. Not a Roofers podcast is with Brianne Dahl. And this is actually a roofing company, Roof Medics, out of Wisconsin, who they do a podcast probably maybe 2 or 3 times a month. And they have interviewed, I've been on that. We've had other folks in the industry, Reed Ribble. They've had a lot of different people who have been on that podcast. They do share that with their customers. And so it puts them as thought leaders within the industry and also for their customers. So they use it as a marketing tool. Again, any of these folks, if you just Google these, you'll find them. Or if you go on your favorite podcast channel and search it, you'll find these too. Of course, Roofing Road Trips, our 4th season, and you're going to hear more about that. Roofing Technology Think Tank is another one that is a great organization all about technology, and they do podcasts that really can help you from that technology side. Dave Sullivan with the Roofer Show is really kind of the original. Dave was doing this before anybody and has great content, many years, really, really a good one to listen to. And then Law and Mortar is from Cottney Law, who many of you probably have worked with, and they just have all kinds of great information. So whether you're sharing this with your employees or whether you're sharing it, pulling content to be able to put out on your blog to your customers, this works both ways. Megan, you listened to a number of these. They're pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, no, they're great. I specifically love the Roofing Technology Think Tank. I'm a little biased because I do edit and produce some of, if not most of their episodes, but I think they're really great, and they usually have fabulous, fabulous guests. And I always think that Trent has such a great speaking voice and is so well spoken, and so his podcast is great as well. Yeah, and there's so many, like Heidi was saying, there's so many different ones to listen to and just to learn. And if you're not listening to podcasts, now is a great time to start. And also you can reach out to any of these podcasts. We probably have contact info, and ask if they want to chat with you. And as a contractor, using that as content on social media, showing the people that you work with, the home and building owners, that you're out there, you're ahead of the game, you're trying to do something different, is always a really good thing to be doing.
It really is. And it leads right into, Megan, the collaboration. If you know any of those, if you know Dave Sullivan, if you know Trent Cottney, if you know us at Roofers Coffee Shop, talk to us about doing a podcast, being a part of that podcast, because then that's content you can use on your site. And I do that. Megan does that. There's a really great example upcoming with Randy Chaffee, who is a manufacturer's rep out of the Midwest. He's just an amazing, awesome experience in the roofing industry. He was on our show, Roofing Road Trips, and we had an amazing discussion. And I'm going to be on his at the end of this week. So it allows you to have that collaboration, joint content, and also it turns into different discussions that lead to a lot of great thought leadership. So really looking, if you know people who are doing podcasts, don't be shy. Say, hey, I'd like to be on it, but have a topic, have an idea of what you want to talk about, because they're always going to ask, like, well, what do you want to talk about? So as we're kind of looking at this, and we just kind of said that, like, why? What are some of the reasons for doing podcasts? And there's a lot, but we just wanted to kind of put some here, knowing that some of you may be taking this to partners or to management, saying, we need to do more of this. Well, why? Thought leadership. Number one, your customers want to know that you understand what's going on, that you are a thought leader within the industry, that you're a reliable source. So that thought leadership, they'll hear it every time you talk and as you're putting these important topics out. Brand awareness, it helps your brand. When you look at the Roof Medics. They are doing this podcast, and people know about their company, and they're getting out in front of their customers. Content. One of the hardest things to do is create content. So as you're looking at wanting to write blogs, wanting to put out videos, wanting to put out podcasts, these all work together. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on. But we had found at Roofers Coffee Shop that if we can interview people, record it, then we can transcribe it. It becomes an article. We can also use it possibly if we have video like we do on Zoom, we can use it as part of our YouTube. So all of a sudden you're creating all this content that you just didn't have before and wasn't quite sure how you were going to produce it. And you reach your audience when they want to be reached, right? So a lot of people are like, I don't want to get on a webinar, or I don't want to read this article at a certain time. I want to do it at my time frame. When I'm driving in the car, I want to listen to a podcast, or when I'm on my evening walks, or whenever it may be. So you're reaching them even when you don't know you are. And it's advertising, but it's not. It's really more of, like I said, that thought leadership, that giving them information that people need. So you want it to be engaging, you want it to be fun. And it is some of the best public relations you have out there. So, and you don't meet your customers like this, or even in person, but you're meeting them in a way that I had a roofing contractor come up to me and say, yeah, I take you up on the roof every day. I put in my AirPods and I go up on the roof, I start tearing off or working, and I'm listening to your podcast. So I'm having a conversation with them when I'm not even realizing it.
Absolutely. And I feel like as a roofing company, it would, if you're, putting yourself out there in the industry and being a guest on several podcasts, that's going to build up your company's website SEO. So if people are looking roofer in my area and they live in Seattle, Washington, your company, if you're, getting more out there, you're going to be one of the first websites to come up.
Yeah. And you're right, Megan, we didn't have SEO on here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great reason. It works perfect. So a lot of you are probably wondering, how do we do this? How do we do it? So first of all, if you're just wanting to share it, you just go and ask. Like for us at Roofers with Roofing Road Trips, we would love for you to share it on your blogs. We would love for you to share it on your site, get it out there. And most podcast people feel that way. But if you want to start a podcast, maybe you want to do something, the first thing you need to do is find someone who knows what they're doing. Megan?
Yeah, so I've been editing podcasts since 2018. I'm a musician by trade, and started a podcast with a college friend of mine. Her name's Caroline Stump. She's in that photo on the slide. But we started a podcast all about songwriting because we're both songwriters and we were songwriting majors in college. So we started this podcast called The Songwriter Diaries, and it was a joke. We were just joking around in class one day, and I said, that would actually be a really fun idea for a podcast. And, the next couple of weeks later, we were in her studio apartment recording a podcast with all of our friends. So, and here we are starting season 7, episode 1 came out today. So if you're interested in songwriting, you should go check out The Songwriter Diaries on wherever you listen to the podcast, because we have a new episode out today. And we really didn't think that this would stick, but here we are on season 7. So my best advice would be talk to other podcasters. If you're wanting to start a podcast, listen and take notes while you're listening to your favorite podcasts. So one of my favorite podcasts is called Ologies by Allie Ward. And she's amazing. She's a hilarious host, and I love how they edit their podcast. They use funny sounds. They have clips, like little excerpts from videos that you can hear to really just make the jokes funny. And she's interviewing really interesting people that are all scientists that study different ologies. And so I take big inspiration in all that I do from her podcasting style. Although I've never been able to talk to her, I can still, pull little bits of advice just in my own head from when I'm listening to her podcasts. And then doing your research. So you're going to want to look up what do other podcasters use in terms of equipment? What are some distribution sites? How do I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Do some research, ask your friends that are podcasters or whatever, how they started, and make sure that you're able to fit the time commitment, because editing is a bit of a time commitment. It takes me now only really about an hour to edit a podcast, but I've been doing it for a while. When I first started, it took me like 3 hours per episode. And as for equipment, you're going to want, at the very least, a good pair of headphones. Here's an example. I use Bose. Good pair of headphones for editing. And then also sometimes, depending on where I'm at, how busy I am, I'll use these to record as well. So as long as you have a microphone built in and it's close to your mouth, it has pretty good sound, to be honest. You don't need to get that fancy. But as Heidi shows, there are also a ton of great options for USB microphones that just plug right into your laptop. And that is the blue Yeti. The brand is blue and the model is called Yeti. And that one's really great. It has a gain controller. So a gain controller is if it determines how sensitive the mic is. So if you're like in a really quiet environment, you don't need to have the gain very high, or you could have it high if you really like. You just need to determine what you like the voices to sound like when you're listening to podcasts, and that'll kind of help you determine what you want to sound like. And then have a good story. And interviewing people is always the best way to have an engaging conversation. Sometimes it's kind of hard to just talk yourself. So you want to have maybe some interviews. Maybe the first couple episodes are just you, and then bringing people on, having a discussion, and then find someone that knows what they're doing to help you out, because after a while you don't want to burn out and get sick of it. So finding someone like me that can edit on the side for you or help line up interviews or so on and so forth. And and I'm also happy to answer any questions that anyone has about podcast platforms, distribution sites, so how you're getting your podcast out on the internet. You can also Google it. There's lots of platforms. We originally were on one called Libsyn, which is really great. I actually really like it. They have a great analytical database, but I moved us to a platform that I use for the Songwriter Diaries called Anchor.com, and it's so user-friendly. You can actually edit your podcast on Anchor, and you can also record. So it's kind of a one-stop shop if you're just getting started. So I highly recommend Anchor.com.
And a lot of this that Megan is talking about is just, we're going to have emails at the end. You can ask her, you can send us emails on this. We're more than happy to share any of this as we're going through. And really, it was kind of the same thing for us. Like, how did we do it? We just did it. We didn't even really, we just were like, let's do a podcast. And so we had been working with someone to help us kind of get started and get out on Libsyn. Our first episode was with Jennifer Stone. And so what Megan said earlier, like, get with your friends. That's how I feel every day when we're doing roofing road trips. I'm on these with friends. We're laughing, we're having fun. We're talking about roofing, which, some people like to talk about roofing. I love to talk about it. So you have to have that authentic reason. And so Jennifer was our first one. And then we brought Megan in because she was, and this is something to think about. If you have young people in your family, people who are going to school at the colleges, community colleges, high school, it's great because they really understand it. Megan understood how do I sound? Do I sound okay? She was able to get us the right equipment, putting all those things together. So if you go from our first one to where we are today, big changes. And so don't think you're going to have it all perfect right up front, because it just doesn't work that way. And as Megan said earlier, we went through a couple different shows. We were thinking, well, we'll have roofing road trips here. And then we need to have the Heidi and Vicky show. Vicky is my business partner. Many of you know Vicky Sharple. She started Roofers Coffee Shop. We also had stories from the roof. But really, when it came down to it, we found that just having one really good one across all the platforms and staying very consistent made a really big difference for us. And you could see that in the numbers that we showed earlier. And then we kind of came up with something, and this was a lot Megan too, bringing up how to do this a little bit different, which has really taken us to the next step. Megan, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so basically, you can turn anything into a podcast. You can take a webinar and take just the audio and edit it, add an intro and outro music and subject, and that's a podcast. So we decided we have this initiative called RLW, Read, Listen, Watch. And so we took our coffee conversations, our RLWs, and our Roofer of the Month interviews, and our influencer interviews, and decided, hey, let's turn them all into podcasts. So if people, if they are driving to work and they're like, man, I really like this subject of, this week's coffee conversations, but I can't tune in and I'm not really a video person. I just want to listen in my car. Then they can take that coffee conversations, find it on Spotify or Apple Music, or just ask, hey Siri, play Coffee Conversations by Roofers Coffee Shop, and they'll be able to listen to it, get all the great information without having to go to the trouble of finding it on YouTube or whatever. And so we thought it would be really beneficial for not only us, but all of our users and contractors that we work with that really enjoy the content to be able to enjoy it in a different way.
Yeah. So now pretty much everything we do, you can either read it through transcripts or articles. You can listen to it on all podcast channels. So our coffee conversations are on all those podcast channels that we talked about earlier, or you can watch it, and you can watch it on our site, or you can watch it on YouTube. So or social media. We have Colin Sheehan, who is our videographer. He is amazing, and he's been putting out videos coming back from IRE. So when you're thinking podcasts, yes, it's all audio, but when you're thinking that bigger picture of multimedia, it all starts playing into each other. And because of that, Megan, where are we now? Almost
We're upwards of 16,000 plays, which is really amazing, because when I came on, we were around like 100 plays. And that was 4 years ago. So it's very rewarding to see that happening.
And exciting as we kind of journey into the next steps. We have really made a big push on our YouTube, and it's kind of funny. Sometimes I think, well, we're just a little late getting to the game because YouTube's been around forever, but YouTube has also kind of found a revitalization with YouTube TV and everything that's going on there. We actually now Karen Edwards and I put out the weekly blend every week. We're on Zoom, and it's again, read, listen, watch. You can do all three. It's on YouTube, produced by Megan and Colin. All of our multimedia, everything we're doing is produced by Megan and Colin. And that in itself, if you think about it, 24-year-olds producing everything that we have going. The talent is amazing. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a mom. It is, you should look for this in your own community. There is so much talent out there of people who can help you produce these kind of videos and put it all together.
Absolutely. And just to plug like the musician community, there are so many musicians that are incredibly well-versed and talented at audio engineering, and they're looking for part-time work. They're looking for full-time work and something a little flexible where they can, work with you on a podcast, get that edited to you, and then 2 hours later, go play a show. Yeah. So, I mean, if you know anybody that is a musician or audio engineer or anything, they're definitely most likely going to be down to talking with you about something like this.
Yeah. And same thing, if you are just looking for someone to say, get podcasts onto your blog, podcasts that are already out there, like what you find on Roofers Coffee Shop, you can also, again, look for young people who are graphic designers, who are web designers, who are trying to maybe start their own freelance business. There's a lot of people out there who can do all of this. It's not easy, but once you find them and get into those circles, there's actually a lot of young people looking for these kind of part-time gigs. Yep. So when we're looking at how to market podcasts, so if you've done it, or if you're even sharing other people's podcasts, what do you do? One, you want to share it on social media. Everything you do on your Facebook, your LinkedIn, however you're doing it, you want to share it on your social media, and you want to share it in your e-news. So if you were putting an e-news out to your customers, or even an old-fashioned newsletter that's printed, always mention your podcast, always mention your multimedia. Highlight it on your website, highlight it on your blog. Megan's going to talk about this in a minute, but really taking and using articles to push the blog, and the blog to push the articles. So all this content pushes each other to get attention. And that's writing articles for the podcast and engaging with leadership. So in your community, if you decide to do a podcast, look for leadership. Talk to the president of the Chamber of Commerce, talk to other trades, talk to your mayor, talk to your customers, obviously having them come in and talk about the experience. Those kind of people, then have them share it with their circles. So it becomes people was on a podcast. This is really cool. And so then you can put it out that way, and always have a call to action. Like, what's that call to action? So for you as roofing contractors, the call to action may be listen to this awesome information on ventilation, and then call us to find out how we can make sure that your ventilation is right, or get that free estimate, or whatever it may be. It really is all about marketing, and then linking up to all the streaming platforms. And that's where you need someone like Megan, because she kind of knows those best practices.
Yeah. So, and another thing is, if you are not interested in starting a podcast or even being a guest on a podcast, you reach out and see if there's any podcast that you enjoy listening to, and see where they're headquartered, see where they live. And if they're near you, reach out to them and say, hey, would you like a sponsorship? I'm trying to reach a new audience. And I want to give people roofs and sell roofs. So I would love to sponsor your podcast. Maybe we can do a little commercial, and you can put it in the middle of your podcast. And then, later down the line, someone will be listening to that podcast and say, hey, I need a new roof. Maybe I'll give this person a call. So reach out and look for sponsorship opportunities also, because I'm sure there's always someone wanting to, make a little cash and feature you on their podcast. But yeah, show notes. So what the show notes are is basically the caption for the podcast. So when you're listening to a podcast, it has a little description, go to my website. Those are really important, because a lot of times people want to read the description of the podcast before they listen. And so they're definitely looking at that. And so if you're putting something important, especially like a call to action, that is a definite best practice, something you need to be doing if you are creating a podcast. And then going back to SEO, just the more content you can create around those podcasts that you are releasing or being a part of, the better, because that'll boost the SEO when someone's Googling, I don't know, maybe your podcast is about like golf and roofing. Someone's Googling golf podcast, you will come up, or roofer in Wisconsin likes golfing. I don't know. They're Googling something, you're going to come up first if you have that SEO, building that backlog on Google. So, and then taking your podcast interviews and using them to create other content. Super great thing to be doing. So you could take a 30-second video of while you're interviewing this person, make a TikTok, make an Instagram reel. That's building your SEO and also bringing more people to the realm of where you are on your podcast. A podcast preview or a trailer you can put up on YouTube, or making an episode trailer on your platform to say, hey, I'm going to tease this little episode so people start getting excited, and then the week later it comes out. And then cross promoting. So if you are a member of National Women Roofing and you've been on a podcast or something, sharing that with them, having them promote, and then maybe you're a member of NRCA, asking them to promote, or your local association, anyone that could help promote what you've been doing is great.
And really, as you're looking at all these things, like as Megan and I were putting this together and looking through these, we were like, oh, we do that. And then as we're talking, I'm thinking, oh, we don't do trailers. We haven't done it. We sometimes do preview videos, but we really haven't done a fun trailer. So I just made a note. We're going to do that. And so, it's one of those things that this is constant. You will constantly find more things to do to help promote it once you start thinking that way and thinking and using it as part of your everyday marketing.
Get creative.
Be creative. So bottom line, and we kind of already talked about this, so I'll just just to recap, I want to, how do podcasts or multimedia, however you're doing this, how does it help your business? How does this kind of marketing help your business? And it's really about the content creation. Cannot stress that enough. That's how you get your search engine optimization, through the keywords, through the content. This is what Google likes. They like to do the little spiders.
Consistent posting. If you should be posting on your social media platforms at least once a day. Yeah,
at least. Thought leadership, it positions your company as the thought leaders, and that's what you want. Employment empowerment, really fun. When you think about that, your employees, interview some of your employees, let your customers get to know them, let them know the superintendents, the foreman, the HR, whatever it may be. It's a great way to do something fun as a company. And then educating your customers. There's so much out there right now that you can find in the industry that will help educate them on ventilation, on different types of shingles, on wind, on fire, you name it. It's all out there. And so that alone, if you do nothing else, just sharing that with your customers will make a big difference. And it also can be a big part of your philanthropy and your cause marketing. It really is a great way to interview Habitat for Humanity, interview the different causes that you're helping with, getting them out there, or be on their podcast. A lot of times they have podcasts that are going out there. So, and above all else, if you don't remember anything from this webinar, is be authentic, be real. People know they don't like fake, and they just want the real you, that real awesome roofing respect professional. So be true to yourself that way. And that, Megan, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
So any questions? Awesome. We have both of our email addresses up here. You can email either one of us. Don't try to steal Megan, but she may do some freelance work. You never know. And so you can reach out to us. We can help. We'll share information. And I really would say, please, listen to Roofing Road Trips and let us know your thoughts. And if there's people you want us interviewing, we'll get them on our list too.
Yes, please send us suggestions. We're always open.
Yeah. And for anybody who's out there listening right now, and I saw a few names, I do want to say that this Thursday is our coffee conversations, and Ray July is going to be on it with Mandy McIntyre and Teray. It's going to be amazing. So please join us for that Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Pacific, for Black History Month. We are super excited about that coffee conversations. And it will be on the podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, guys. You did such a great job. I have like 3 pages of notes now. And lots of questions. But,
good.
Yeah, no, I think that this is something that, we could incorporate into what we do. I can see a lot of businesses being able to incorporate this and really have another stream of marketing out there. It's really an exciting idea.
Absolutely. Yay, I'm glad.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, I just want to thank you both for taking your time out of your busy schedules to present this information. And once again, we'll be editing this, and it will be over on our YouTube channel if you want to rewatch. Do you have the PowerPoint that you could send me if anyone wants to have the PowerPoint?
For sure. I'll send it right after this.
Okay, perfect. And then I just want to remind everybody that we have a trade show coming up in April. and Sporting Clays and our biannual dinner. And Heidi will be here for that, as well as Megan, I think. And so we're really excited to have them up and speaking and doing Roofers coffee conversations during the trade show and such. So I'm excited about that. And I hope you can go to the website and take a look and see all about it and double check. Does anybody have any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Well, with that, thank you guys so much. I can't even tell you how wonderful this was.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good luck podcasting.
Thank you.
I need help, Megan.
I'm here for you.
Okay, sounds good. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.